The Indiana Fever, congratulations, you four. You guys have successfully broken Caitlin Clark. Great job. You guys have tried your damnedest to turn her into a role.
What we are witnessing appears to be the gradual dismantling of a once-in-a-generation talent. The Indiana Fever Leadership Group, head coach Stephanie White, general manager Kelly Krauskopf, and president Amber Cox, has embarked on a highly questionable experiment. Rather than fully empowering one of the most dynamic point guards the game has ever seen, they seem determined to fit her into a rigid, traditional system that limits the very qualities that make her exceptional. Instead of building around her strengths, the current approach appears focused on forcing her to adapt to a structure that minimizes her natural impact. However, that is only the beginning of the story. The developments that follow may ultimately prove far more significant than what we have seen so far.
Rogue, yeah, these networks get exactly what they asked for. They get exactly what they get every penny of what they asked for. But when she doesn't go rogue, when she plays within the system, when she gets subbed out 3 minutes into the game, and then plays for a few minutes, then subbed out again, and then plays for a few minutes, then subbed out again.
The television networks investing heavily in broadcasting rights did not commit premium dollars to watch a superstar spend significant portions of the game on the bench just minutes after tip-off. What they paid for was the deep-range shooting, the gravity-defying passes, and the electrifying unpredictability that emerges when she is allowed to take command of the game. When she plays with freedom and confidence, she generates the type of excitement that drives record-breaking ratings and attracts new audiences to the sport. That dynamic style of play is a major reason for the league's growing popularity. However, the current coaching philosophy appears to discourage that creativity. Instead of empowering her natural instincts, the system relies on tight control and constant micromanagement. The result is a player who often looks frustrated and disconnected on the sidelines, rather than energized and fully engaged on the court.
Get rid of those four and you get rid of your stooge of an agent, Aaron Kane, you'll be free. And I know we don't want her to go the LeBron route, but at this point, you need to get rid of Aaron Kane and you need to call Rich Paul immediately.
This brings us to the business side of the situation. The lack of public response from her current representation, led by Aaron Kane, throughout what many view as organizational mismanagement has been impossible to ignore. Their silence has raised serious questions about whether her interests are being adequately protected. Compare that approach to how a major agency such as Clutch Sports typically operates. If someone like Rich Paul were handling a similar situation, critical media narratives would likely be met with an immediate and coordinated response. There would be a clear effort to control the conversation, defend the client's reputation, and challenge unfavorable coverage at the moment. There appears to be little protection from either outside criticism or internal limitations. As a result, she remains exposed on multiple fronts without a strong public advocate shaping the narrative. Now, here is the part that most people seem to be overlooking.
Y'all need to listen to this real quick.
Let up at all. They're going to stay full. They're going to be disruptive. I think for us, I think we got to get the ball inside to our post players. I think that's one way, or one key to the game that will help us win is to get AB and Mo and.
Let's take a closer look at the basketball strategy being implemented. The emphasis on forcing the ball into the paint appears to overlook the actual strengths of the roster. Monique Billings is averaging fewer than 10 minutes per game, while Aaliyah Boston, despite her impressive talent and effective mid-range game, is still working toward greater consistency when finishing through contact around the rim. More importantly, building the offense around post entries minimizes the impact of the team's most dangerous offensive weapon. When a guard has the ability to attract double teams from 30 feet beyond the basket, the offense should be designed to take advantage of that unique pressure. High pick-and-roll actions create opportunities by exploiting that gravity, forcing defenses into difficult decisions, and opening the floor for everyone else.
Stephanie White on why Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark subbed out at the 6:30-minute mark, after which Portland went on a 13-2 run. Well, AB is still on a minutes restriction, so that's why she's coming out, and that's typically around the same time that we've taken Clark out before. None of that is good at all. None of that is good at all. But again, wait, why are you specifying AB's on a minute restriction, but you're not specifying Caitlin Clark's on a minute restriction? Explain, please. We did it in Golden State because, quite honestly, we didn't want Raven in that environment without another ball handler on the floor, but that's been our...
The reasoning behind these rotations simply does not withstand either statistical analysis or logical examination. Arguing that Aaliyah Boston is operating under a minutes restriction may explain her substitution, but it does nothing to justify removing the team's primary ball handler at the exact same 6.5-minute mark. Even more concerning is the explanation surrounding the Golden State game environment, which exposes what appears to be a deeply flawed developmental approach. Protecting a franchise cornerstone from challenging road atmospheres may seem beneficial in the short term, but it ultimately denies the player the valuable experience required to thrive in high-pressure situations. Championship-caliber athletes are forged through adversity, not sheltered from it. If the goal is long-term success, those difficult environments should be viewed as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to avoid. And this is where the situation starts to become personal.
But I'm going to use it anyway. Folks, you mow your lawn. What do you do before you mow your lawn? You start your engine. And what do? You let that engine warm up because it needs to warm up. Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, they're your engines. Got to start that engine, let them warm up. 3.5 minutes isn't enough to let them warm up. They finally get into a rhythm. You get an 8-4 lead, 8-2 lead, and you take them out. Well, now they got to start their engine again. But now we're not starting our engine to begin the game. Now we're starting our engine in the rhythm of a game of momentum we've already lost.
What makes this situation so extraordinary in modern professional sports is that the franchise stumbled upon a once-in-a-generation talent, both athletically and economically, yet continues to treat her as if she were merely a supporting piece in a rebuilding season. We are witnessing, in real time, the suppression of a player who transformed the landscape of women's basketball before even stepping onto a professional court. The core issue lies in the disconnect between how the Indiana Fever views its timeline and how the rest of the basketball world sees it. The front office appears to be operating under an outdated development model. They seem to believe that veterans must always be prioritized, hierarchy must be respected regardless of talent differences, and rookies must earn complete freedom only after proving themselves within a rigid system. History, however, tells a different story. Truly transformative talents demand immediate structural changes. When a player has the rare ability to reshape the geometry of an entire basketball court, you do not force them to fit into an existing playbook. Instead, you redesign everything around their unique abilities. You do not ask a tsunami to flow through a garden hose. The psychological impact of this dynamic is impossible to ignore. Constantly changing substitutions, unclear off-ball responsibilities, and public comments suggesting the team performs better with someone else at point guard are not minor strategic errors. They are public displays of doubt that gradually erode a player's natural confidence and aggressiveness. The reported involvement of a sports psychologist in encouraging acceptance of a reduced role is particularly concerning. Rather than empowering a superstar to demand the structure needed for success, the messaging appears focused on compliance, conformity, and suppressing individuality. It serves as a troubling example of how competitive fire can be diminished from within. The financial implications extend far beyond a single team. The WNBA is entering a pivotal period marked by television rights negotiations, expansion opportunities, and an important collective bargaining agreement. Much of this momentum has been fueled by a fast-paced, perimeter-oriented, highly entertaining style of basketball that captivates audiences, by limiting that style in favor of conservative offensive schemes and cautious minute management. The coaching staff is not only failing its star player, but also working against broader league interests. Broadcast partners are undoubtedly noticing the difference between the product that was heavily marketed and the more restricted version currently appearing on the court. The upcoming schedule will only intensify the pressure. High-profile matchups against the Atlanta Dream and the New York Liberty are approaching, and the demand for immediate success may eventually collide with the coaching staff's commitment to questionable rotation decisions. Some observers may even speculate about strategic rest days being used to avoid public scrutiny of these coaching shortcomings. Moving forward, meaningful change may require intervention from outside the organization. It could begin with stronger representation, an agency fully aware of the leverage and influence involved. The passive acceptance of the current situation has arguably encouraged the continuation of restrictive practices. At the same time, the player herself may need to embrace the tension that often accompanies greatness. The most influential athletes in history were rarely known for unquestioning compliance early in their careers. They understood that their vision for the game often exceeded the cautious instincts of coaches and executives. This moment represents a defining crossroads. She can continue operating within a system that many believe limits offensive efficiency, or she can take ownership of her own narrative. The second option may create discomfort and organizational conflict, but supporters argue it offers the clearest path toward reaching her full potential. As it stands, the Indiana Fever experiment appears fundamentally flawed. The structure does not merely need adjustments, it may require a complete reset. The question now is simple. Will she continue accepting a limited role within a struggling system, or will she unleash the version of herself that once forced the entire basketball world to pay attention? You cannot have it both ways. Let me know where you stand in the comments.